Hey, what's up? I'm Jimmy, and this is Cheap Cosplay, the show where I'm going to try to show you how to make cosplays in the cheapest and most effective ways possible. And for my first episode, I'm going to do Doug Dimmadome, owner of the Dimmsdale Dimmadome. Let's do it. Alright, so now I'm going to show all the different things that you're going to need for the costume itself. So I went in my closet and I got these white pants. And then for another piece of the costume, Doug wears a kind of just long sleeve white shirt, and I had that in my closet as well. My dad used to go to I don't even know if they were rodeos or whatever the heck they were, but he had that crazy gold belt. And then I also had these black dress shoes, and I think those fit the costume very well. And then from the place that I work, we all wear bow ties as part of our uniform, so I'm just going to use that for Doug's bow tie. And then hanging underneath his bow tie, he kind of has this weird string sort of thing. So I'm actually just going to use a shoelace. And then the last piece of the outfit is this white jacket. And I picked this up at my local thrift store. I think it was about $6 or something like that. So then the next thing I did was just take a whole piece of EVA foam, start warming it up to try to get into that cylinder type of hat shape, I guess. And then the next thing I started doing was applying the contact cement to try to get those seams connected, so then it was actually a whole hat instead of just a piece of foam. After I was done, it looked something like this. It's a little rough, but I went back later and sealed it up to make it look better. So then to make the brim of the hat, I just took a hat that I already had and just traced it on a piece of fun foam from the dollar store. And this is what I got after I was done. You could honestly just make it into an oval or any shape you want, just as long as it's about hats, like the typical brim size, it should be fine. So then the next thing you're going to want to do is just trim that piece out, eventually get something like this, and then we'll be ready to glue the thing to the rest of the hat. Oh wait, yeah, before you can glue it to the hat, you got to cut off these little dangly bits, puzzle piece edge things, whatever. The things that are on the outside of it. Oh yeah, there you go. That looks pretty good. So after you get it like that, then you're going to want to do that to both sides. And then I just glued that piece actually to... Oh, no, it's shoot. Okay. After you're done shooing the little dingly dwaps off the side there, then you can find the center point of the brim. After you get the center point lined up, then I just lined up the rest of the hat. Try to get it as central as I could. And then you can just trace around where the edge of the hat is, like so. And after I was done with it, it looked pretty central. It might have been off by a little bit, but I was pretty happy with it. And then after you got all your lines drawn up, you're just going to want to start applying contact cement around the outside of the brim of the hat, and then at the base of the, I guess, long part of the hat, cylinder part of the hat. After you wait a little bit of time, it does take about 5 minutes or so to set. And then after that, you can bring both sides together. But make sure when you're doing this, be very careful, because once you stick them together, very difficult to get them apart. Then because of the way that I did it, you have to cut out the little bottom piece here. This part's pretty easy. You just have to follow the edge of the hat. You'll know when you hit it, and you can really do this with any pair of scissors. I just kind of had these shears on hand, so that's what I used. So the next part of the project, I actually had a bunch of failures. So I took that same hat that I had before, and I was trying to wrap pieces of foam around it, and it didn't work. I tried upgrading to this a lot larger sheet and tried melting it around the hat with a heat gun, but nothing that I did really helped. So then this is the next thing I did, was trying to make a little riser piece that went on top of the hat. This is the overall shape that I got from that. But as you'll see in a moment, I ended up not going with this either, because after I painted it and all that, it just didn't look very good. It just didn't match the rest of the hat, so I ended up scrapping it. So then after I glued it on, this is what I got. And as you may be able to tell, the shape of it, and it looks weird on the top sitting there. So what I ended up doing, instead of adding a riser to it, I took that exact same shape that I had before and cut it into the gray part, so actually lowering the gray a little bit. But in the long run, it looks a lot better, it matches the whole thing, and it looks a lot more streamlined. So the next thing I did was seal the entire thing on a coat of Plasti Dip. I ended up using 2 layers actually of the Plasti Dip on there, and this is what it looked like after I was done putting on those 2 layers. So after I covered it with all of the Plastidip, I wanted to paint the entire thing white. So I don't think I have it over here, but I just used some basic like white spray paint, and it didn't really give it like a good coat. It kind of had a weird shiny finish to it. So then I took just this cheap white acrylic and put that over the entire thing, and it gave it a very good just like matte finish. I did 2 coats of it so far, but I'll probably do one more just to finish it up. It looks alright in the shadows, but I put it out in the sun and it looked a lot better because the white is so reflective. So I'm just going to do that real quick, put the 3rd coat on it, then I'll be back. So here's me just throwing on that 3rd coat that I was just talking about previously. And as some of you guys might be able to see, I'm actually watching One Piece in the background on my computer. God, I love that show. I'm trying to get through it right now. It's it's quite the train ride, I would say, because of it just being as long as it is. But yeah, it's a pretty good show. So hey, if you're into anime, definitely watch One Piece, even though it's long as all get up. And then maybe for my next video or something, I'll make a costume from One Piece. I'll probably just do my favorite character from the show, which is Frankie. So after you let that layer of white dry, what I did is just measure, I think, 3 inches up from the bottom of the hat, so just like right off the brim. Because what I'm going to do next is just paint like a gold layer around the bottom. And then after you get those few marks drawn around the base of the hat there, I just took some blue painter's tape to mask it off so I didn't spill the gold paint over any of the fresh white paint that I just painted. So then I started painting on that gold. So this is the gold paint that I use, and I just got it from my local Michaels. I think it was just like a few bucks or something like that. But after you always make sure you shake up your can of paint no matter what, then what you're going to want to do is just start applying that to the bottom of the hat from the blue part of the bottom of the tape all the way to the brim of the hat. Try to do it as carefully as you can, but it's alright if you get in the white, because all you have to do is just go back and put a little bit more white paint on that. And then bang! Look at that! Look at that beautiful gold paint on there. Ooh, even though some of it was not the greatest. I think I went back and put a little bit on. Make sure whenever you're painting like this, put like 2 or 3 coats probably on it. That's how you get that clean, beautiful paint finish. And then after you've waited long enough for the paint to dry, you can start pulling off the painter's tape and reveal your masterpiece. And then the next thing I did to try to give it a more cartoony look, I just followed the top of the gold line with a little bit of black paint. And when I was doing this, I rested my wrist on the base of the hat just to keep my hand as steady as possible. So the last thing that I needed to do to finish up the costume was to just trim up this mustache. I got it on Amazon for I think about $10. So if you want the exact same mustache that I have, then I'll link it down in the description below. And now prepare yourself, because for what you are about to see, you can never unsee. I'm Doug Dimmadome. I want to run the Dimmsdale Dimmadome. Hey, thanks for watching the first episode of Cheap Cosplay. If you like what you saw today, then subscribe down below. And if you have any ideas for any costumes that I could do in the future, put it in the comments section below. And I hope to see you guys next time. See ya! Dabs. But no, I look like a weird mix between like Mark Twain, what was his name? Jamie from Mythbusters, a walrus, Colonel Sanders, with a splash of Doug Dimmadome.